Oh my gosh, little vent. I'm sorry for the break in the recordings, but yeah, there's something wrong with my dock and my computer keeps dropping out my microphone. So let's hope it holds now as we keep recording towards the end. So the final thing we did in our tutorial this week was go through and dissect the assessment task dissected. I drew this document up by simply going through the task description and breaking it down into small elements so that I had absolute clarity about what the task required of me. So I decided to divide it into the artifact itself. What do I actually have to do and upload? A reflection on the artifact and what the reflection expects in terms of the way it's described. So starting off, you did an Excel spreadsheet example, and the data representation you use may include a multiple way of doing things, including images, video, embedding your spreadsheet, as well as a downloadable spreadsheet. I would be a little bit aware that only having the downloadable spreadsheet limits your capacity to communicate to me the process that you followed, and we'll talk about that in a sec. The artifact reflection is expected to be all year levels, so what we're looking at is a progression from P to 12, 3 to 4, and 5 to 6. And if we're talking about curriculum outcomes, I would expect that you would go to the curriculum and look at the data expectations that actually match this activity for years P to 2, 3 to 4, and 5 to 6, and see how you can actually embed that. Now that could be in the knowledge and understanding content descriptor or the process production skills content descriptor. It doesn't have to be comprehensive, it just needs to be one selected content area that you talk about. And then the expectations of this reflection, then once you've identified your year levels and linked it to the curriculum, and here it is again, so it's worded twice, to the year level and curriculum. Obviously the year level means that you're going from less to more complex. We're asking you to draw links using your pedagogy to the learning potential of this activity. Now, you should understand enough about pedagogy now to realize that the worst thing you can do is sit your kids one by one in front of a computer and get them to do an activity and assume that they understand what this is all about. The technologies curriculum is all about understanding the context, the richness of technologies, where it's used, how it's misused, and talking about genuinely understanding data in this case and what data can tell us. So I would be playing with ideas with a prep to 2 without using the computers to start with. I would be stacking blocks or lining Smarties up, or all sorts of lovely things like that, so that they understand what they're doing when they get onto Excel. And I would certainly simplify the Excel spreadsheet environment by reducing the number of menu items that they've got, making it bigger, coloring it, and so forth. By the time I get to years 5 to 6 and even year 3 to 4, I think they fully understand that data is represented. And again, go to your curriculum and make sure you understand the curriculum. But I think they really are capable of going into the task itself that you've worked through and understanding that, we had a question that was open-ended. A week. Is a week 5 days or 7 days? What is the difference? We've got different numbers of bins for lower and upper primary school. Does that make a difference when you actually calculate and add together? All of that basically is something you reflect on as you talk about this activity. Would the content of the bins be different in summer and winter? Depends when we actually take this content, doesn't it? Would the content of the bins be different on a Monday and a Friday after a student-free day? All of these are discussions you have, and that leads you into the broader data collection and the way that data can actually be used to misrepresent as well as represent ideas. Again, the binary code, we're looking at data as images. I'm asking you to resize a document with reference to the technology understanding. So I'm asking you to show that you understand the technology and you understand what it can do. The same with the Excel spreadsheet. You understand the technology and you know what it can do. Then I ask you to choose 1 year level juncture, and again, we want to meet the content learning descriptors. That means you have to go to your curriculum and have a look and see what it meets. And basically the outline pedagogy that would frame. Now, frame is a deliberately selected word. You've got a picture. You've got a frame around that picture. So the activity is a little activity you do, and you would have other things that you would do around this activity to make the activity more valuable. For instance, you could do a color by number. You could do a color by number and let's say have 12 by 12 little patches and a very, very simple image and color those in. Then you could say to them, okay, we're going to amalgamate every foursome, so 2 by 2 pixels, and color that in to a color that represents best the colors across all of those 4 pixels. And you'll start getting a pixelated image. And you can talk about, when does it get to the point where you combine pixels so much and colors that you actually don't have your image anymore. That sort of discussion. Bearing in mind that image resizing should be done in the Prep to 2 year level juncture, this is something you need to be able to devolve down so that they understand it. And then of course upwards to your older kids in terms of them understanding the way that you can choke your computer, seriously choke your computer and the internet by trying to pump stuff through that doesn't need to be so big. If you've got a photograph that you want to print as a poster, of course you need the resolution and you need the pixel size. But if you've got an image that you're putting on the web to illustrate something and it's going to be on the web as a small image, you can resize it to the smallest possible image that it can be, remembering that the whole message of design and digital technologies, digital particularly, is efficiency. You can do things in a million ways. With digital, it's about the most efficient way of doing things, and that will come through in your programming as you go. Next week, we look at algorithm and computational thinking. I'm asking you to work with years 2 and 3. To start with here, we're asking you to demonstrate your understanding of the technologies you can use. Over here, we're asking you to first of all do a year 2 to 3 activity that doesn't use computers to help them understand algorithms and computational thinking. And then a year 5 to 6 code studio activity and how that will actually support, again, algorithmic and computational thinking. So again, we've got curriculum meeting, learning outcomes to meet, and we've got our pedagogy that frames this activity. And then the final one is an open-ended challenge where you actually code and create an artifact of some sort. We won't talk about it now. We'll talk about it later. But we're just here now. Look, it's not about year levels any longer, is it? It's about explicit links to computational thinking. We're asking you to identify your knowledge of the computational thinking skills. Which ones are they? Let's look at the reflection expectations. It is in terms of algorithms, branching algorithms, iteration and decomposition in your program. So that gives you some sort of set of criteria and expectations of your program. When we go down to the conclusion, I would draw this probably from the framing elements of the curriculum, so the aims and rationale and structure of the curriculum, but also what you've learned, because remember, you can get into anybody's blog, anybody's Weebly site and have a look at what they're doing and look at the way that individualization and creative approaches are enhanced. This is part of your experience, and that's why the blogs have been published. I keep saying blogs, I'm sorry, I apologize. That's why the Weebly sites have been published in the forum. You should be able to access anybody's Weebly site. Now, be careful. Be careful. Don't copy somebody's stuff. But do ask them if you can use their ideas. And then give attribution. So you go to your Weebly and say, Mary Jane, here's her Weebly address, had this great idea that I've used in my own Weebly. This is learning. I love that. It's creative problem solving. Okay, so think about the conclusion there. Now, there is a criterion on digital communication. That's why I said, if you upload a spreadsheet and don't have anything else, I just don't understand how you think that that is genuine sharing online. I would certainly have screen captures and then a downloadable spreadsheet, but you need that much more. And the media that we've recommended is from the following, not all of the following necessarily, but online tools for sharing audio, that's Weebly, audio, images, video, concept mapping charts, infographic charts, certainly comes back to your Excel spreadsheet. This one, definitely images, comes back to your image resizing. And we want you to link these to their suitability for your purpose. So obviously, if we're looking at data as images, you're going to take these images that you've used and say, there you go, I've shown you. If we have data representation, it could be that you actually have a graph or chart of some sort. So definitely link that to suitability of purpose, and it should be just implicit in what you do. So this is just drawing your attention to how you're going to do it. Because the curriculum expects, in the Australian curriculum, that students are familiar with all of those skills that we've asked you to demonstrate all the way through from prep to year 2. And then all the way from year 3 all the way through to year 9. So just be aware that you understand what it's for in the curriculum, and that's what we would expect from you. Now going to the criteria. Criterion 1. We're asking you to show us that you know how to use it and you know what it's for, basically. So you've got to demonstrate your competence. And that's why we've said uploading a spreadsheet doesn't really give you the opportunity to fully demonstrate your competence. It needs explanation, and it needs framing in your language and what it is and how it works. Criteria number 2 is about the application and supported links between the activities that we're doing and curriculum and pedagogy. So that draws on the curriculum, it draws on the activity, and it draws on your ideas. Now, of course, you research those ideas. You don't necessarily have them popping up at the back of your head, but you understand how these technologies and these activities can be used in your classroom. And criteria number 3 is the way that you use information and communications technology. That's the images, the audio, the Weebly, all the RT stuff, and basically the level of competence that you've used and demonstrated. And of course, we will talk next week about legal, safe and ethical guidelines, because that is an expectation of preps, year 1s, year 2s, and everybody else, including you. So we'll talk about that next week and expand on that. Thanks, guys. Have a lovely week.